Thank you very much for the introduction and all the glowing words you have spoken about me. Actually, it is not me who should matter. It is the subject that should matter. It is the master who should matter. It is the country that should really matter. It is they who have brought us up to a certain point, and it is our responsibility that we live in their ideal, in their cherished beliefs, in their prospects and future possibilities. My topic is connected with one of the greatest works of our literature, that is Savitri. Savitri is a poem written by Satyavan to the last 15 years of his life, from 1935 to 1950. He devoted very major part of his time in composing and giving us Savitri. Basically, Savitri has its origin in ancient time. The story of Savitri belongs to Mahabharata. Rishi Vyasa himself, as a young poet, had written a poem called Pativrata Mahatmya, the ideal of worship of the spouse, of the husband, a devotion of a wife to her husband. That was the ideal which was put forward first by Vyasa at a very young age of his. Later on, that poem got incorporated in the Mahabharata. It appears in the Mahabharata, Vanaparva of the Mahabharata, in 300 shlokas, 7 sections, and it is a masterpiece in composition by itself. But my main theme about Savitri is connected with the significance of Savitri itself. Significance of Savitri, why we go to Savitri at all. Professor Satyavan said that he has read Savitri 3 or 4 times, and every time he reads it, he finds something new, something different, something deeper in them. And I would say that that is perhaps the way of growing oneself spiritually. Spiritually, that is how one grows. The more you read in Savitri, the more you dwell in Savitri, the richer you become spiritually. That is the greatest thing about Savitri. So it is inexhaustible. It is not the question of reading Savitri once or twice or 100 times. It is your lifelong companion. It is something which will take you through all the worlds, this world as well as worlds beyond. Savitri is a rich storehouse for that purposes. Now, we are not very familiar with Savitri. On the other hand, whatever familiarity we have got Savitri, we try to make it a Dharma Grantha, a religious book. I will say that is a very wrong way of approaching Savitri. Don't make Savitri a Dharma Grantha. Live in Savitri, grow in Savitri, prosper in Savitri, cherish the ideals of Savitri. Let the new doors of the Spirit open out to your vision and your understanding of things. To be more and more in Savitri is to get better and better all the spiritual prospects in our life here itself. That is the significance of Savitri. Now, it is a pity that people are not familiar with Savitri. Savitri is the greatest work of Satyavan. It consists of about 24,000 lines, 49 cantos, 12 books, written between 1935 and 1950, his last seal of manifesto of his vision and work of Satyavan, you see. Now it is in that way what we have to grow and live in it, you see. It is a pity that Savitri is not known to the world. Satyavan has come from Cambridge, and here is a production from Cambridge which Cambridge does not know. The English of Savitri is something most cherished, most beautiful, most advanced, most sweet, and the people of Cambridge are not aware of it. It is our responsibility in a certain sense. If it is called a responsibility at all, it is at least our intention to draw the attention of those people that here is something literature coming from their own university, and of that they are not aware. Now, if that purpose is served by our talks here, by our association with Savitri, then I think we have done something for ourselves also. With that background, let me say something about what is Savitri. The question to be asked is, what is Savitri? It is a difficult question. It is a very tough question. The simplest answer is that it is the story of conjugal love. It is the story of conjugal love, where the marital fidelity is proclaimed as the greatest social ideal. Marital fidelity proclaimed as the greatest spiritual ideal. Why so? Because it is on the basis of this association of two souls that a social stability, social harmony, social relationship can be fruitfully established and promoted. So the ideal of fidelity is not just husband-wife relationship. It is something of the intrinsic quality of your own soul associated with the prospects of the Dharma Samstha, of the righteous conduct in life. To promote righteous conduct in life is the main ideal, is the main objective which Vyasa had in him. So Vyasa, as a social reformer, has done something absolutely unique. If we have got in India general social stability, I will say it owes its credit entirely to Vyasa. Vyasa was the founder of social system, and by giving her the social ideal, he has brought out a social stability which is very, very valuable. It is that which has endured all the passages of time of 5,000 years. And if India lives, it is because of this conduct of righteousness that India survives and prospers and grows. The first answer, what is Savitri? That is the question we have been asking. What is Savitri? The first answer is, it is a story of conjugal love. It is the marital fidelity in it is glorified, that it can win the greatest victory in life. It can rout the negative power in the creation that can cause upsetting havoc, annul the formidable obstacle. It can even defeat death. The marital fidelity is so powerful in the conduct of righteous life that can even defeat death. Not only the elimination of what is hostile and wrong, it upholds the law of righteous conduct. Not only is the stability of the social order upheld, the values of life are cherished and promoted. The story of Savitri, as I said, first narrated in the Mahabharata. Shyamantu speaks of the legend of Savitri belonging to the Vedic cycle. Although the story comes from Mahabharata, it actually belongs to the Vedic cycle. The Vedic cycle is very rich in its contents, in its spiritual contents, very deep, very profound. In fact, perhaps the Vedic origin could be traced to the Richas in Mandala 10, Sukta 72, addressed to Aditi, goddess Aditi. Goddess Aditi has 8 sons. Of these 8 sons, she takes 7 to the higher worlds and leaves the 8th in the mortal world. It is the fate of this mortal son which is the story of Savitri or of the Vedic Rishi of Aditi itself. I will read the verses from Rigveda itself. From the body of Aditi sprang to life 8 sons. With 7 she went to meet the gods and cast away the 8th Martanda. Aditi, in the earlier age, went forth with 7 sons to the gods. But as a mortal, coming to life and dying, as a mortal, coming to life and dying, to be brought to them, she left Martanda. So this Martanda, left in the mortal world, has to be rescued from mortality. That is the basic theme of Savitri. That is the basic theme of what we have in the Mahabharata story, Satyavan and Savitri. That Satyavan is about to die, has to die. Satyavan must die, and Satyavan must be rescued from the clutches of death. Satyavan must be freed from the clutches of death. Clutches of death, why? Because as long as death is present, there is bound to be falsehood. There cannot exist truth at all in this creation as long as death is present. So to rescue Satyavan from death means to remove falsehood, to conquer falsehood, to win victory over death is to win victory over life. It is that which is purported by Vyasa in his story. This is a very terse description. It is not obscuring, if it is obscuring to us, but its significance remains sealed to our ground. Surprisingly, even during the long spiritual journey of the Upanishadic time, with such richness of spirituality, they were not able to grasp the essence, the contents of Savitri tale at all. The tale of Savitri remained sealed even to the Upanishad. It is now for the first time, absolutely for the first time, that the real sense of Savitri is brought to us by Sri Aurobindo. That it is the conquest of death. Conquest of death means removal of falsehood, and the moment the falsehood is removed, there is bound to be the reign of truth in this creation. It is the reign of truth that is to be established. The realm of spirit has to open out here. The Mahabharata tale runs briefly as follows. The tale of Savitri appears in the Vanaparva, as I said. In Vanaparva, King Ashwapati is issueless. He has no son. But in order to maintain the law of righteous conduct in life, he must have a proper progeny. And it is for getting a proper progeny, for getting a son, that he worships Goddess Savitri. He worships Goddess Savitri for 18 years. 18 long years he does Savitri Yajna. Every day, 108,000 times he offers ahutis, he offers oblation to Goddess Savitri. Lives very pious life, great controlled life. At the end of 18 years, Goddess Savitri is pleased with the tapasya of King Ashwapati. She appears in front of him and grants him a boon. Actually, she tells Ashwapati that although he is praying for a son to be born, so that the law of righteous conduct is continued in his creation. But she says that she has consulted the Father Creator, Brahma himself, about Ashwapati's request. And Brahma, in his wisdom, has granted Ashwapati not a son, but a daughter. She says that a daughter will be born to you. And she also tells him that he should not have any hesitation in accepting the boon as given to him by Brahma himself of a daughter. because it is daughter who will bring about a complete transformative change in the life of not only his kingdom but the whole world, in the entire creation itself. Now, in due course of time, Savitri is born as a daughter to King Ashwapati. Now, because she is born as a gift of Savitri, she is also named Savitri. She grows in due course of time into full maidenhood. Her splendor is fiery. She looks like a beautiful goddess herself who has taken the mortal birth, a damsel from heaven. She appears extremely powerful, overbearing, commanding. She is so powerful and so glorious that no hero prince dares to approach her to claim her hand in marriage. She is not able to get a suitor of herself to get married. That becomes a problem to Ashwapati. Ashwapati then tells to his daughter that please you go ahead and search a life partner of your own choice. Savitri sets on long journey. She travels from country to country, goes from capital city to capital city, stays at number of places for days and days, but her quest does not get fulfilled. She goes to pilgrim centers, she goes to places and makes generous offerings to gods and goddesses and deities. Deeper yet she moves into cloistered hermitages and monasteriums. Finally, she comes to the Salwa forest, where in the deep emerald forest she meets Satyavan, sun bright Satyavan, radiant like the sun himself. She meets Satyavan. There is an immediate recognition of theirs. Satyavan recognizes who Savitri is. Savitri recognizes at once who Satyavan is. They recognize each other simultaneously and they pledge to be together in life. They become partners in the promotion of life and life's intentions. But Savitri now goes back to her palace to inform her father that she has already chosen Satyavan for her husband. She was told to find someone who is of her own quality, and she is now back to the palace to tell her father that she has discovered one, she has found one who is equally noble like her own, Satyavan. But there is a surprise. While Savitri is in the palace, she sees that her father, her parent, are already in the company of sage Narada. Heavenly Narada makes a purposeful visit to Ashwapati, a very timely visit to Ashwapati, and there arrives Savitri. Ashwapati asks Narada if Savitri's choice is a proper one. Has she chosen a proper person as a life partner? If it is acceptable in every respect, he asks her. He tells that Narada is his Dharma Guru, he is Guru himself, and he will entirely go by what he says. After enumerating his noble qualities of Satyavan and his exceptional features, Narada points out that there is only one snag, only one blemish in the life of Satyavan. He is noble, he is glorious, he is a perfect Aryan prince of high nobility, albeit perfect, but there is only one snag in the whole of his life, and that snag is that his life is short. He is going to live only for 1 year after the marriage. he is going to die. He must die at the end of 1 year. Savitri is persuaded to change her mind, but she remains firm in her resolve. She opposed that her choice is the choice of her soul. Her choice is the choice of her soul. If it is the choice of her soul, there is nothing that can alter it. She is firm in her decision and she sticks to her choice that she is bound, tied to Satyavan alone. The marriage is duly performed. On the fated day, Satyavan dies in the lap of Savitri. In the forest, they go together on that particular day. And while Satyavan is busy with his work, he feels suddenly tired, feels as if great arrows are piercing into his head. He feels pain in his brain. He tells Savitri to take him in her lap and console him, that he may die in her lap. Even as he does, he starts moving towards. On the fated day, Satyavan dies in the lap of Savitri. The death occurs in the lonely forest, under a kingly tree, a huge banyan tree. Under the tree, death occurs. The denier of life, God Yama himself, comes to pick up the soul of Satyavan. Even as he does, even as Yama picks up the soul of Satyavan, he starts moving to his abode in the deep south. Savitri follows him through occult darkness. Stern death forbids her to return, to go back to her home, and she must return to the safety of the terrestrial house. Yama advises Savitri to go back and remain safe in her house, but Savitri refuses. She argues extensively with Yama, argues about the scriptural laws, about the conduct of life, about the greatness of the truth principles in the execution, in the existence of life itself. She says that it is by the sense that the sun moves in the track of its truth. It is the saints who make the sun move along the track of truth. The death forbids her. Savitri refuses. In the fierce battle between them, eventually the divine mortal, Savitri, wins victory over death. Savitri brings back the soul of Satyavan to the earthly dwelling. That is the greatest victory she has won. She has vanquished death. She has set aside the falsehood that arises due to the presence of death. By releasing the noose around the soul of Satyavan, the God Yama himself proves to be the superlative benefactor of this creation. Death Yama is now the benefactor of this creation. Such is the brief ancient tale of Savitri as we have in the Mahabharata. This is the aspect of the legend, the tale of Savitri as a legend. Its significance is something different. As I said earlier, its significance is different. But the purport of Vyasa telling the tale of Savitri is for social welfare. The immediate purpose. Although the immediate purpose may appear social welfare and social stability, yet it has deeper significance. Vyasa has one single objective in mind in narrating the story of Savitri. It is to alleviate the suffering of man by following the righteous path. It is a social ideal that is proposed to be established to make life happy and prosperous. Vyasa, as a builder of the society, stands out most prominently in this work. Nevertheless, it does not mean that the simple Savitri tale intends only a social ideal. Social ideal, all right, but that is not the main purpose, main intention, main objective of Vyasa narrating the story of Savitri. There is a deeper, occult, nobler connotation. When one sees it with some insight, its contents bring a sunlight that can bring the terrestrial darkness, that can illumine the terrestrial darkness. The tale is a mystic document. The Savitri tale, as given to us by Vyasa, is a mystic document. It is a document of a deep mystic nature. In fact, it is a manifesto. It is a rich manifesto of spiritual life and spiritual prosperity upon earth. Not elsewhere, not in heaven, not in paradise, but spiritual life in its truest sense upon earth. Claiming back the soul from death is the most meritorious action that is possible. Most meritorious action that is possible. Savitri has done that. There cannot be any greater ideal apart from establishing the law as demonstrated here. It is entirely to the credit of Vyasa that we have such a compact, wonderful episode. I will very briefly render a few of the verses from Vyasa Savitri into English. I will read them only into English. A few of the verses from Vyasa Savitri to give some idea of what the original text of Savitri is. The selected is. The first verse is Brahma grants to Ashwapati a daughter, and as ordered by the self-born Brahma. Indeed, by his gracious favor, by Brahma, the Creator's favor, soon Ashwapati will have on earth an effulgent daughter. An effulgent daughter. She is given the name Savitri. Given as she was by Savitri, Savitri Prithya Datta, who was pleased by the Savitri oblation, the father and the wise ones named her to Savitri. Savitri grows into full maidenhood and she has to find a proper husband. She is sent on a quest to find her life partner. Riding her golden chariot, Hiranyaratha, riding her golden chariot and accompanied by the elderly counselors, she travelled through several lonely woods of penance of the royal cities, Rajarshi. Finally, she meets Satyavan in the Shalva forest. Satyavan meets her, but there is a prophecy by Narada, that Satyavan will in 1 year from today abandon his body, his life here expended. Kshanayur Varsha Dhyanyasu Karishyati. This is the only blemish bearing on him, and there is no other. Savitri is naturally persuaded to change her mind, but she remains firm in her decision. She tells her father, look, by perception does one come to a certain conclusion. If that perception is founded in the soul, then it must be obeyed. And then one holds it by speech. Only afterwards is it put into action. that perception of mine for me is the one single authority here. What I have seen in my soul, it is that alone which I will follow and continue to follow. Savitri engages herself in observing vows. At the end of severe vow, yoga tapasya, she goes from rishi to rishi in the hermitages and asks for their blessings. She asked for their blessing on that fated day, and the rishis tell her, let everything be all right for you. Let nothing go wrong there. Savitri is a yogini par excellence. She treasures those words of the rishis in her soul and tells them, let it be so. Dhyana yoga parayana. Savitri is Dhyana yoga parayana. She stores their words in her soul and tells them, let it be so. Let your words come true. She is about to go to the forest when Satyavan is to die. Entering into the yoga of meditation and saying to herself, be it so, she, in her heart of heart, repeated the words of benediction. Savitri and Satyavan go to the forest. Satyavan is happy that his spouse is with him, and he shows to her the richest of the forest, showing the secret stream carrying waters, and the tall mountains and trees laden with flowers. Satyavan would speak to Savitri in words that are honey sweet. Such is the beauty of the language of Vyasa Savitri itself. God of death appears. Within a short while, she saw present there a bright person in red attire, with a tiara on his head. Handsome and brilliant he looked, as though the sun god himself had appeared there. She tells Yama, by the truth, saints lead the sun. By the truth, the saints lead the sun, not by gravity, not by physical forces, but by the truth, saints lead the sun. By ascesis, the saints uphold the earth. The past, present, and future find the refuge in the saint. O King, noble person, the best of saints, had never any grief. Noble person in the midst of saints had never any grief. Yama grants the boon to Savitri. O gracious lady, here I free your husband. O daughter, doing honor to the house. That is how he gloriously tells to Savitri. By your words, possessed with the merit of dharma, O saintly woman, you have gladdened me. He has gladdened her. Take him now, go sound of hell, and fit to return. Arogyastha, the group of Palal. Satyavan's soul is free. Satyavan's soul has come back. Now from the forest, Satyavan and Savitri go back to the hermitage where their parents are living. On the way, Satyavan tells Savitri to take a road which bifurcates into two directions. At the group of Palasha tree, the road bifurcates into north and south direction. Take the one which goes to the north. North, the highest, the toppest, the most beautiful. Palasha tree. Palasha is a very significant tree. Beauty of Fontosa, Palasha tree. It means that it is the realization or the greatest spiritual values in life. Palash stands for the realization of the greatest spiritual values in life. So he tells her to take the road which leads to the north at the group of Palash tree. That is very significant by itself already. Vyasa has said many things in that one single phrase. That is the significance of Savitri. The symbol is charged with the story of creation. This is the tale of Savitri. But now what about the symbol itself? Savitri is the story of evolution. According to Sri Aurobindo, Savitri is a tale of evolution. Evolution of consciousness with greater superior forms appearing. It is a charter for the soul of the earth to hold and express more and more of the creative wonders in this creation. In the history of earth, a major and radical transition is on the verge of arrival. There is a supreme will behind it. Forces and circumstances have gathered. There is the dynamism carrying it, the sweeping and luminous stride. The issue is tied with the quarrel between earth and love and doom. The basic issue between earth and love and doom. That is the issue. That is the issue between the three disputants. Earth, the place for spiritual growth and spiritual expansion and spiritual prosperity. Doom, the denier of this right of the earth. That is the doom. And of course, love. Love, the supreme presence in this creation. It is by which alone that the doom can be removed, that the path of the earth opened out. That is the significance of earth and love and doom. Earth was created to concentrate the effort of the evolutionary manifestation. There is a special presence, the psychic presence in the earth. The genesis of evolution itself is in the story of creation. Story of creation, it starts with four powers, four mighty powers in their absolute freedom of action, separated themselves from their origin of light and love, from the original soul, parted, became their opposites. When this horror of separation was seen, there was a great plunge. Even as the soul of absolute love stationed itself in the pit of horror. It is a task now which has to be carried out properly. That means that the divine power must be born in the mortal world. The divine power must be born in mortal. She must come as Savitri. She must condescend to pass through the portal of the birth, that is the death. Pass through the portal of the birth, that is the death, and remove death, remove falsehood, so that the path for truth is cleared. That is the prayer King Ashwapati makes to the Supreme Goddess. Therefore, the Supreme comes and becomes Ashwapati. In response to that prayer, he comes and becomes Ashwapati, the Lord of Life. Even as he moves through world after climbing world, he leaves his presence behind in every part of the corner world. Ashwapati meets her in the transcendent, where there is the absoluteness of real idea and action. Ashwapati meets the divine goddess in the transcendent. She, the truth force, is the luminous heart of the unknown. She is a power. She is a power of silence in the depths of God. She is the immutable word. She is the magnet of our difficult essence. It is to her alone all nature doubly calls. She is the truth force in the luminous heart of the unknown. She is here. It is to her alone all nature doubly calls. To her alone all nature doubly calls. Cause to heal with her feet the aching throb of life. All here one day has to be her sweetness's home. Ashwapati's spirit is caught in her intolerant flame. She assures Ashwapati, yes, one shall descend and change the law of fate, change the law of death. She shall bear wisdom in her voiceless bosom, and her strength shall be the sword of a conqueror. She shall come here and conquer death. Her sword will be a conqueror's sword. In her coming shall be planted a branch of heaven. One shall descend and come. She comes as Savitri. Eventually, Savitri is bidden to find herself life's partner. In search, she finally meets Satyavan. They pledge to be together. Narada proves her sense of rectitude. Savitri passes through the cosmic past, pushes it aside. A portion of the mighty mother enters into her. Yet, that necessity is not sufficient. Savitri must annul herself totally. Savitri must be only God, so that nothing of inconscience remains her. Savitri follows them. Death yet remains unyielding. Savitri enters into her house of meditation. In her house of meditation, what does she see? She sees in the house of her meditation a constant yajna going on. Constant yajna is going on. And she identifies herself with yajna, offers herself totally to Supreme in that yajna, in that consciousness. The moment that yajna is kindled in her heart, the course of event completely changes. Savitri is now the winner. Savitri has conquered death by the power of that yajna, and death stands cancelled because of her. Her body, his body, was eaten by light. His spirit devoured, and he flees away. Transfigured death sends Satyavan and Savitri to earth. Transfigured death sends Satyavan and Savitri back to the earth to carry out the work of their soul upon the earth. What is the work? Of divine manifestation upon the earth. But the miracle is, even while Satyavan and Savitri are coming down, the greatest miracle is follow Anandamaya Purusha and Chaitanyamaya Shakti to the earth. Krishna and Kali come here, pursuing her in her fall, implacably sweet. A face was over her which seemed a youth's, symbol of all the beauty. I see not, voluptuous to the embrace of her soul. Changed in its shape, yet rapturously the same, it grew into a woman. They come, Krishna and Kali, as a boon from the divine himself to the earth. The divine dynamism and divine ananda, it is that which is established in their coming here. The coming down of Krishna, the being of bliss, Anandamaya Purusham, and Kali, the divine dynamic force, Devikriya, is a triumphant boon Savitri has won from the divine himself. Here is Savitri, a perfect shrine for the God of love. Who is Savitri? Savitri is the one who houses love in her soul. Love in her was wider than the universe. The whole world could take refuge in a single heart. The great unsatisfied Godhead here could dwell, vacant of the dwarf cells imprisoned air, her mood could harbor his sublimer breath. Spiritual that can make all things divine. Spiritual that can make all things divine. For even her gull was secrecies of light. At once she was the stillness and the world, a continent of self-diffusing being, an ocean of untrembling virgin fire. The strength, the silence of the gods were her. In her he found a vastness like his own, and he moved in it, and moved in her as in his natural home. In her he met his own identity. By housing, by enshrining love in her, Savitri establishes the reign of love in immortal creation. Therefore, who is Savitri? Savitri is not a legend. Savitri is not a symbol. Savitri is the incarnation of love goddess herself. Love in her was wider than the universe. That is Savitri. That is Savitri. So the question with which we started, who is Savitri? The answer is, she is love incarnate to enshrine the God of love upon earth. Thank you very much.